Okay, these are probably the most confusing leggings I've ever tried. I do feel like there's a noticeable difference in the waist, but you can definitely see a difference between the standard and the Curve Love fit. They got rid of the front seam. This just doesn't even look like an active dress. If you're someone with a smaller waist and larger hips and glutes who constantly deals with waistband gaping, you've probably heard of Curvy jeans, but today I found a brand that is doing curvy-friendly activewear, and in this setting, curvy is just referring to a slightly larger than average difference between your waist measurement and your hip measurement. It's not referring to larger plus sizes or anything, and it's also not even really referring to only people with hourglass waists, because you can have a larger waist to hip discrepancy and still not necessarily look super hourglass. Again, this term was kind of reintroduced to us by jean companies, and I've done a couple curvy jean videos on my channel. Personally, for regular pants, this has saved me because I have always been someone who's constantly had a waistband gaping issue. Kind of the standard waist to hip discrepancy in most brands is about 10 inches. If you ever look at a size chart, an extra small, for example, the waist would be a 25 and the hip would be a 35. But for me and many other people, the 10-inch discrepancy doesn't always work for us. There's obviously both ends of the spectrum. Some people have a smaller discrepancy, some people have a larger discrepancy. In this video, we're trying the Abercrombie APB Curve Love leggings. If you have watched those curvy jean videos of mine, Abercrombie Curve Love jeans are my favorite things ever. I have so many pairs. They fit me so well. They tend to have about a 12-inch discrepancy between the waist and the hip. In my own personal measurements, they're always in the description of every video, but my waist is around 26 inches and my hips are around 38.5. So that is outside of that normal 10-inch difference. And while with activewear, usually this isn't a huge issue because the garments have a good amount of stretch to them. I have come across a number of brands that just don't really work for me, namely like Athleta and Lululemon. I just feel like they're made for a little bit more straight up and down body types. I'm not saying I'm super hourglass, I'm just referring to my measurements. But whenever I wear brands like that, the waist is always a little bit big and then I'm always really compressed on the glutes. So I was very intrigued to try these new Curve Love leggings. And a big update for Abercrombie, they got rid of the front seam. I'd love to see more brands get rid of the front seam, at least have a couple options with no front seam. So in order to properly compare, I got a size small in the regular leggings and then a size small in the Curve Love leggings, just to see really where they made those fit modifications. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So as you can see in the back, I definitely didn't just get the new Curve Love leggings. I got a couple other pieces as well because it's been a while since I've tried Abercrombie's YPB activewear line. I tried them when they first launched and I liked them, but now they've got rid of that front seam and they have a lot of cuter pieces. So I'll be reviewing everything that I got in addition to those leggings and also the cutest little active dress I've ever seen. I had to try her. So a little bit more about Abercrombie's activewear line. By the way, this is not sponsored. I did buy all this myself. I'm just excited. They're about a mid price point. The leggings are $65, but something about Abercrombie is you can almost always find a sale. So I'll be putting all of the prices on the screen and I'll be putting the full prices. But as I was preparing for this video, everything is like 25% off. So the leggings were like $48, which is not in the affordable price range, but considering that many leggings I feel like I try these days are like 60, 70, I feel like that's not too bad. So I definitely feel like they fall into like a mid price range, not quite mid to high, because you still have the $100 Lululemon Aloe Yoga, and the YPB stands for your personal best. So we have to start the video off with the YPB StudioFLEX leggings. These are the 7/8 leggings, and again, I got the regular sizing as well as the Curve Love sizing. So this is their StudioFLEX line, which is new to me, but this is kind of their most like low impact, lightweight line. So I'm expecting a low compression, kind of like a Lululemon Align type feel. I hate to compare to that, but I still get questions all the time asking for like Align dupes, and I just feel like that's like 5 years ago. Anyways, here is a close-up of the fabric. It is a lightly brushed fabric, very lightweight, but it has a ton of stretch to it. So I'm enjoying the feel of this fabric so far. It's an 80% nylon, 20% elastane. And I tried to scour the website for a little bit more info on their Curve Love sizing, how it relates to leggings, because when I've done my curvy jean reviews in the past, sometimes there will be separate size guides for curvy and regular because they're actually going off of different measurements to create these. So unfortunately, there's not a separate size range. That is something I would like to see, because when you click on the size chart for the Curve Love bottoms, it just gives you that standard size chart that has the 10-inch difference between the waist and the hip. And the whole point of the Curve Love is that it's not the standard 10-inch difference between the waist and the hip. So Abercrombie, if you're watching this, a separate size chart for the Curve Love lines would be very helpful. The info they do give about Curve Love, it says our signature Curve Love fit featuring increased room in the hips and thighs with a nipped in waist to eliminate the waist gaps. So I already took some measurements of both of these and kind of compared them laid flat, but you can definitely see a difference between the standard and the CurveLUX fit. The standard definitely has a lot more of a straight up and down, especially with the waist. And the CurveLUX has a more tapered waistband, again, to eliminate that waist gap. And it has a little bit more of a full shape in the hip area. So you're getting a little bit more of that hourglass fit to allow the waist to fit a little bit better and then not squish down the glutes. Again, this is a very stretchy fabric, so I'm interested to see how this actually fits when on. But in terms of actual measured differences, I did go through and measure these. The CurveLUX has about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of a smaller waist opening. They're about the same where the waistband attaches to the body of the leggings at 13 inches. This is all for size small. And then across the widest part of the hip, it's about 1/2 an inch bigger on the CurveLUX. So just minor differences. That only adds about an inch difference. But again, since these are leggings, they're going to have some stretch to them as well. So while the jeans maybe had more of a 2-inch difference, this is more of like a 1-inch difference. And then laying them on top of each other, you can definitely see that standard fit just kind of goes straight up in the waist and the CurveLUX comes out a little bit at the side. I also measured the thigh area and you're also getting about 1/2 an inch more thigh space on these CurveLUX. So the structure of these is definitely different. Some other basic details of the leggings that is for both the CurveLUX and the non-CurveLUX. You have a double thickness waistband with no top band, straight across waistband in the front with no front seam. Then you have a pretty elongated gusset that goes all the way down the leg, maybe about to the knee. I actually love an elongated gusset. I feel like they look very elegant. And then we go to the back and you have the YPB silicone logo. It is tonal up at the top of the waistband, so not super noticeable. And then they mention like V contour seams in the back. This is about as V contour as a Lululemon Align, so like barely even V. I would have liked maybe a little bit more going on with these back seams, but they are just a teeny bit better than straight across. And then the last thing that surprised me is these are actually a raw cut hem at the bottom. I feel like I rarely see this. It does feel like a little bit of fabric glue is maybe applied so that these don't fray. Here's that raw cut hem at the bottom, and these do come in short and regular inseams. It says they come in a tall, but those like aren't available even though everything else is in stock, so I'm not so sure that they actually do come in a tall. So these are a 25-inch inseam in the regular. So let's try these on. Okay, these are the non-CurveLUX, and overall, with these leggings being so lightweight, these are definitely a low compression. These are also a 10-inch rise, so they are an ultra high rise. They go above the belly button. So if you are a short girly, be aware, these are quite high. Double thickness waistband, and I do feel like I could use a little bit more compression at the top of this. So hopefully that CurveLUX snatched waist fit kind of helps because I could see these sliding down. In this fit, I do feel like I have a little bit of extra fabric, so I feel like I could easily size down to an extra small. Also with how low compression these are, they're super, super endlessly stretchy. So I definitely feel like if you're in between, or even if you're not in between, you could probably just size down if you just want a little bit more hold, because right now this is very much a naked feel. There's a light brushed layer to it. It does kind of contour the body a little bit, but you're really not getting a lot of hold out of these. So if you like a really low compression legging, these are for you. This is something I would wear to like Pilates, yoga. Then you have the seam up the back. They're definitely not squishing my glutes down at all. So I guess we could do medium to high. I feel like my booty scale standards have just really gone up with how many leggings have been flattering on the glutes in the past couple years. So 3 years ago, this would have definitely been a medium to high in the booty scale. These I feel like are now just kind of like a medium. Like they're really not doing much enhancement. You're not going to get a lot of cellulite coverage with this as well because the fabric is quite thin. And then this is the full length view. These actually feel a little bit longer than a typical 25-inch inseam, but I did measure them. So you have that raw cut hem at the bottom. So they're very seamless there. I think if you like a low impact legging, these could be really good, but let's try on the CurveLUX. Okay, here are the CurveLUX. I do feel like there's a noticeable difference in the waist. Instead of feeling like it was really baggy at the top, they now have a more snug fit on the waist here, but because these are so low compression, they're still not cutting in at all. I can't say I notice a huge difference in the hip area because honestly, again, the compression is so low that they weren't really squishing my glutes down before, but there definitely is more space, which is nice. I honestly think these leggings in both the regular and the CurveLUX fit run a little bit big. So personally, I wish I had gotten an extra small, but we still have that ultra high rise. I think you can really see the biggest difference in the waistband. I will do that side by side of the regular and the CurveLUX. No front seam. These do have that side seam, and everything else is essentially the same. These are the same length at the bottom as well. So overall, I love the CurveLUX fit. I'm not loving these leggings in general just because they are super high rise. They just don't really need to be this high rise when they have so much stretch to them. Like I could easily reach all the way up to my bra band, and I'm 5'9" with a long torso. And they just run a little bit big. I do feel like I have a newfound place for super low compression leggings like this now that I've been going to some workout classes where I just feel like I like a low compression. So I don't dislike that, but I would size down because these just run a little bit big. So I think the biggest difference for me is that tapered waistband, because I kind of rarely run into the issue where leggings are really like too compressive on the glutes, especially when they're not trying to be a compressive legging. But I'd say pretty often I do get some waistband gaping, especially in brands that I'm not really used to wearing. So having that tapered waistband is really nice. A lot of brands already kind of do this tapered waistband. So if you're someone who's not looking for a curvy fit, it's nice to know that the Abercrombie YPB regular has that more straight up and down fit if you don't have a waist that really likes to be squeezed, even though these are really not squeezing. So yeah, I love to see the Curve Love options. The only other brand I've ever seen doing this is Lululemon with their Contour Fit, but they only ever release that for one pair of leggings. So I still like can't shop most of Lululemon because it just doesn't really work for me. So it's nice to see that Abercrombie has this on multiple bottoms and probably will keep having it moving forward. All right, now that the curvy leggings are out of the way, we're just gonna quickly go through the rest of the pieces that I just wanted to give a try. So I got their StudioFLEX Sports Bra. This was a size small. We have removable cup pads, just simple tank strap with a little scoop in the back. You have this contrast piping detail that's very trendy, as well as this almost a little bit curved lower hem and sweetheart neckline. I think this is going to be very flattering. The only support in the bottom of the band though comes from this piping. There's no elastic or anything on the inside, so I hope this is compressive enough to kind of keep me in. And then the removable cups are pretty good. They just seem a little bit flimsier than I would like. I'd kind of rather them be a little bit softer than too stiff because then they really show, but these could kind of be prone to crinkling. So let's try this on. All right, here's the sports bra. Actually fitting quite well, even though we don't have that under bust support. That little piping is sitting nice and flat under my bust. So overall, I would consider this one true to size and medium coverage. It's giving me full side boob coverage, but there is a little scoop in the front. The support is still pretty low, so definitely for low impact. We do have these tank straps. They are sitting just a little bit wide on me. And I feel like a common theme with the straps today is that they could just be a little bit more lifting. I feel like everywhere else fits really well, but the straps are almost a little bit too long to the point where I do feel like I could kind of fall out of this one. So for larger busts, the coverage isn't bad. It just could use a little bit more. I'd love for Abercrombie to come out with curvy versions of their sports bras because they do that for their swimsuits and it's amazing. And then the back is super simple, nice and scooping. I feel like this little piping is super cute. It's just not the most supportive sports bra, but I do like it. Next, I got the StudioFLEX Full-Zip, and I actually got an extra small in this because I looked at the model on the website and hers looked kind of baggy, so I didn't really want mine to be baggy. Because this fabric is very lightweight, it doesn't have like a lot of jacket structure, so I feel like it'll look better if it's more tight. But we have a full zip jacket in that StudioFLEX fabric with a mock neck. We have tonal branding on the zippers. The zippers are dyed to match, but they actually are made of metal, not plastic. Here's an up close with those zippers. They have the little YPB on them. 2 zip pockets in the front. I love zippered pockets. We do have thumb holes on the cuffs, and then the back is very simple. Let's try it on. Okay, so this is the extra small and it's still like quite big at the bottom. So this definitely runs like very big. I'm really glad I sized down, but also for me, I just don't love when a jacket is tight literally everywhere except for the bottom. Like I just feel like it's meant to be kind of tight everywhere. So this is definitely not your snatching BBL fit. And I'm actually okay with a jacket that has a little space at the bottom if it's a more structured fabric to kind of give that structure. But since this fabric is a little bit more slouchy and just very low compression, low structure, I just feel like it's not giving what I want it to give. So I could even size down an additional size, and that would be the small size that they have, and it would still fit me. Anyways, the length on this is about hip length. So it just goes a little bit over my hips to the point where you just kind of perfectly get a little bit of overlap between the leggings and the jacket. This is an ideal jacket length for me. I love having the zippered pockets. They are nice and secure. We do have a full zip up to a mock neck, or you can wear it all the way unzipped. The sleeves have a little piping detail in that pink all the way down. The sleeves are perfect length and you have nice little cuffs with the thumb holes. And then the back is very plain, and I'll show you the back once it's zipped. Still have that looseness in the back. So I'm not loving this one. It's also a very thin material, so it's really more like a shirt style fit, but I do love the zipper, the mock neck, and the pockets. I also got the StudioFLEX portrait tank. I'm definitely noticing with these StudioFLEX pieces that they are made for more low impact, so a lot of the tops are pretty low support, but that's kind of like the vibe of the collection. So we have that contrast piping detail again. We have this nice little portrait neckline. The back has a full coverage. It is a cropped length. Then I'm happy to see a full shelf bra lining with removable cups. So this actually will have some decent support. Nothing for cardio or anything, but I was kind of expecting this to just have cup pads or maybe even nothing. So happy to see a full built-in bra because that's honestly a deal breaker for me. So let's try this on. All right, here's the portrait neckline top. I wanted to love this one, but unfortunately it's just a little bit too low cut for me as I was kind of trying on some of the leggings and everything, leaning over. My girls were definitely planning their escape. So I think that these straps could just be a little bit shorter or the neckline could be brought up a little bit more. If you have a smaller bust, this may be perfect for you, but for my larger bust girlies, it works as long as you don't lean over. So do it that way you will. So we have that portrait neckline. This is very flattering. Nice tank straps. It's not cutting into anywhere. I'd say it's true to size, but if you're in between, you definitely could size down because it just has so much stretch to it. Full built-in shelf liner with removable cups, and that's sitting nice and snug under the bust. This is a cropped fit, so it's longer than the sports bra, but not quite waist length. And then full coverage in the back. So I like this one. It's just not super functional for me. The support is also very low. The last StudioFLEX piece are the StudioFLEX shorts. Unfortunately, these don't come in the Curve Love fit. I would have loved to see them come in the Curve Love fit, but this is just the standard. So same structure as the leggings, straight across, double thickness waistband. We have an extended gusset that goes down the leg. These are a 5-inch inseam. YPB logo on the top of the back waistband. Very, very slightly contoured seams. They say that they're like a V enhancing seam on the back. Where's the enhancing seam? In that ultra lightweight stretchy fabric. Let's try it on. Okay, here are the bike shorts. Personally, I wouldn't really call these bike shorts because they're like very short. For me, biker shorts are at least like a 7-inch inseam and these are 5. So yeah, but first of all, I'm gonna roll this up a little bit. These are not quite as high rise as the leggings. So I'll put the rise measurement at the end of the screen. The leggings were 10 inches. These feel kind of more like 9. So I don't know if that's just how I'm feeling or if that's accurate, but I'll put it at the end. Double thickness waistband, 5-inch inseam. No front seam. We do have the same side seams as the leggings have. The 5-inch inseam is good. For me, these will roll up just because they are kind of hitting above the bulk of my thigh. For me, a 6-inch is the most ideal length. And then we go to the back, seams above the glutes. Basically the same as the leggings. We have medium on the booty scale, low compression. The only thing I'll say is that I do wish these came in a Curve Love just because the thigh seam is a little bit tight. I would still consider these mostly thick thigh friendly, but I feel like the thigh seam is just a little bit restricting. So again, they're still okay for me right now, but it would be nice to see them come out with a Curve Love option for the bottoms, mostly for that thigh space. So next I have a couple of their SculptLUX pieces. So this is a different fabric. The SculptLUX is described as being compressive and supportive without being restrictive, as well as smoothing and sculpting without pinching. So this is definitely going to be a little bit more of your compressive performance fabric, while the StudioLUX is like your yoga lightweight kind of fabric. But I had to try it because the YPB SculptLUX leggings also came in a Curve Love fit. So I feel like with compressive leggings, that's where it gets a little bit harder to not have the Curve Love. And this also shows me that they're doing the Curve Love in more than just like one legging. So these are the SculptLUX. These are the 7/8 leggings and I got a size small. We have a double thickness waistband with no top band. I thought these weren't gonna have a front seam. Am I just being silly? And there's something going on with this front seam that I like even less than normal. I feel like they just added it for fun. So we talk a lot about seams on this channel, and I'm surprised to see that the seam that attaches the waistband is actually not a flat lock seam. So we actually have a good comparison right here. You can see how here you just see two pieces of fabric coming together, and here on the front seam you see this stitch. So this is a flat lock seam. The flat lock seam is where both pieces of the fabric comes together, so you don't have a little piece of fabric poking into you, and this is kind of the standard for activewear. So I'm a little confused why the waistband is not a flat lock seam, and you can see when you don't have that flat lock seam, you get this thick piece of stitching that just kind of like can kind of chafe you on the inside, and you especially don't want this in performance leggings, which these are performance leggings, because for performance leggings, if you're actually like using them for performance purposes, that's even a higher chances of chafing. So I'm not really pleased to see this non-flat lock seam going on. So I wonder why they chose that. It also kind of gives a little bit more bulk to the clothing, so I just don't really love that. So unfortunately, these have a front seam. I was getting all excited that they had multiple no front seam leggings. I guess not, but some people like front seams. So if you like the Curve Love and you still want a front seam, you still have options. So the SculptLUX is a 78% polyester, 22% elastane. And on the website, it kind of looked shiny performance, but it is actually brushed. It's just a more dense compressive brushed material. So here's that close up. You can see it still has a little brushed layer that's kind of like that smooth fuzzy layer and a little bit less stretch to it. So it's still gonna have stretch, just like a little bit more hugging. Anyways, the back is kind of straight across. We do have an extended gusset that goes again about to the knee, and these are also a 25-inch inseam. Let's try them on. Okay, these are probably the most confusing leggings I've ever tried. Like, they have the performance material shine. So I'm like having a hard time describing these because they have a brushed feel, but then they kind of look shiny. So I just feel like I don't love that. I do prefer more matte performance. I don't necessarily hate a shiny look, but it's a little bit shinier than I'd like. Other than that, the waist is a 9.5-inch rise. So a little bit less high rise than the first leggings. They're kind of between a high and an ultra high rise. They do hit just a little bit above my natural waist, above the belly button. I didn't try the non-curve love version of these, but I have a feeling if I did, my waistband would be gaping because the slightly tapered waist on these is absolutely perfect. And since this fabric does have a little bit more structure, it definitely feels like the kind of legging that would like gape out and like pucker a little bit. So love that they offered that curve love fit here. Have a little bit of extra tapering in the waist, a little bit more room in the hips. Now I really don't like the lack of the flat lock seam here. If you really look carefully, you can kind of see that little inner seam kind of like flip-flops and create some bulkiness. And I just think that was kind of a weird choice to do here because everything else has flat lock seams. We do have a front seam, but I'm getting minimal camel. I think because I have more room in the hips, that kind of just makes everything fit a little bit better. So I think that actually may help with the camel toe situation. We have that contrast piping all the way up the side. You still have a seam at the side of the waistband. So I found that kind of interesting, but then you don't have a side seam, you just have the piping. We have that extended gusset that goes all the way a little bit below the knee. And then in the back, the seams do sit above the glutes, but I don't really feel like anything's being enhanced. So just solid medium on the booty scale. You will get some cellulite coverage out of this because the fabric is a little bit more thick and dense, has a little brushness to it. Overall compression is about a medium compression. They're not like super compressive and they still have a good amount of stretch to them, but definitely more hold than the first leggings. And I feel like having this slightly more tapered waist will be nice for a performance legging, kind of keeping them up a little bit better. And lastly, the full length view. These are again another 7/8 legging that I don't really think it came in a long length, unfortunately. So we just kind of have an ankle-like fit. So I think these are okay. I wouldn't go crazy for them. They also have a hidden waistband pocket for some extra storage. To go with those leggings, I got the YPB Apron tank. I also got a size small in this one. This one has a high neckline with kind of a scoop away from the armpit area. Thin spaghetti straps, but they are adjustable. We do have this cute little piping detail that goes around the top as well as the bottom. This is a cropped fit. And then this one does not have a full built-in shelf liner. So you can see this one has the cup pads and it has stitching to keep the cup pads kind of where they need to be, but it doesn't have any underbust support, like an elastic to kind of like make sure the girls stay supported. So this one's definitely going to be a little bit lower impact, which is kind of surprising because this is the higher impact fabric, but let's just try it on. All right, here's this top. The fit is much better on this one. I think having that thicker fabric definitely helps. So this one's nice and true to size. I do feel a good amount of hold and compression. We have that high neck with that little cutaway from the shoulder. Then you get those little spaghetti straps and they are adjustable in the back. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do feel more supported in this one. The coverage is basically, I'll say medium to full coverage just because there's a teeniest bit of side boob there. I do feel like I get the underbust support just from the double thickness of this fabric here. So even though I don't have a built-in bra, it's not a huge deal. The support is like light to medium. I don't have any concrete issues with this one. I'm just not loving the fit on me. And then I just had to try this dress. I feel like this just doesn't even look like an active dress. It's a little bubble skirt dress, which I feel like you could wear as like a normal dress, but it's made of active fabrics. So it's gonna be nice and sweat wicking. I just feel like this is so good for those days where you know you're gonna be like out and about and you know you're gonna be like a little sweaty, but you still wanna look cute. So I ended up getting a small and an extra small. Sometimes I find active dresses to like not be quite small enough on my waist. So I did get two sizes here. I'll talk about the black and white because it's a little easier to see. We have a straight across neckline with spaghetti straps. They are adjustable. This is the SculptLUX fabric, so this is that slightly more compressive material. I'll have to check the fabric of the skirt though. It feels like a bed sheet material, for lack of a better description. All right, it still says the bottom is a polyester elastane, but just looking at the differences here, this is a classic kind of legging material, and this is a more lightweight, kind of flowier material that's gonna kind of hold that little bubble structure. So it has that classic bubble skirt construction where they kind of move the hem under the skirt a little bit so that it gets that little bubble appearance. And then in true active dress fashion, we have a built-in bodysuit. The built-in bodysuit has no front seam. Very impressed. And this one is a 4-inch inseam, and there are also pockets on both sides of the shorts. It also does have removable cups in the bust area, but no underbust elastic. So again, would have liked to see a little underbust elastic for some support, but if this is compressive enough, I might have enough support. So anyways, these are so cute. Let's try them on. The black and white is the small, and the full black is the extra small. Okay, so this is the extra small, and I'll wait to form my final sizing opinions until I try on the small, but I feel like this is so cute. Like, this is just such a different active dress than I'm used to. You have that SculptLUX material on the top, so you are getting a little bit of compression, and similar to that apron tank, we have the cup pads, but because I'm getting some double layer compression in the waist, I still feel a little bit supported. So you still do get a little bit of bra support, only like a light to medium, but it's something. In the extra small, I'm getting about a medium coverage up at the top here, just a little bit of spillage. I would have liked maybe something slightly different than a bandeau neckline, just because I feel like bandeau necklines, they don't always cover like the top of my bust very well. I probably would not really work out in this. I mean, this is more like a tennis, you know, pickleball girly kind of dress, but I feel like it's just better for a lifestyle. We have thin adjustable straps. Would have liked them to be a little bit thicker, and it has this cute like drop waist design, and then the little bubble skirt, and then the inner shorts are 4-inch inseam. I feel like the extra small is fine on me. It may be a little bit snug on the thigh opening there, but really not too bad. Then we have those side pockets and no front seam there. She could be a little bit longer. I feel like I see the shorts kind of peeping out underneath it, so we'll see if that's any better in a size up, but I am quite tall, and I feel like the front length is good, but it definitely lifts up a little bit in the back, so I wish it was a little bit longer back there. But let's try on the small. Okay, so here's the small. I feel like on the bra part it still feels pretty good, and for the most part I'm not feeling too much strain in the torso, so mostly long torso friendly. Biggest differences I'm noticing with the small is at the bottom of the drop waist. I would kind of want this to be like a snug drop waist and then flare away, but it's a little bit loose along the bottom of the drop waist there. Then if we pull up the skirt, the back of the shorts is not sitting against my lower back. So this is exactly why I sized down, but I kind of like the black and white better than the just black. The length does appear to be a little bit better. I feel like it's covering my glutes a little bit more in the back, but it still is definitely on the shorter side. I do like how they match the skirt color to the inner short color so that you don't expose anything, and probably a little bit easier to see in the white. So we have a sleek performance material down here, and we have those inner pockets. This feels different than the SculptLUX. It feels like a true performance material that's not brushed. So yeah, I would say if you do have a smaller waist and things can kind of gape on your waist area, I would probably choose the size down. It may be a little bit shorter though. So I don't know, I kind of have mixed feelings on the dress. On the one hand, I love the shape, like the drop waist, little bubble skirt is so cute, but I feel like it doesn't fit me perfectly. So let me know what you guys think. Okay guys, that is everything. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed, make sure to do so. Let me know what other brands or things you'd like me to review. I feel like Abercrombie YPB is definitely improving based off what I tried when they first launched a couple years ago. So really happy to see those improvements. I love the unique designs. I like that little bubble dress. Just like a very fun active dress. I'm all about active dresses. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.